Hi, we're Simon and Nikki Mills and we're part of Hope Springs Church, and we just want to share a story of hopelessness transformed to hope, revolving around our youngest daughter Sarah.
When I was 20 weeks pregnant with Sarah, she's our second daughter, we went to our scan, and normally when you're going to that scan appointment you're really excited because you're going to find out what sex your baby's going to be, and we were convinced we were having another girl, but we weren't sure. Anyway, when they started the scan, the technician was quite quiet because there was obviously something wrong, but she couldn't tell us what was wrong. All we could see was her stomach looked like a balloon, and her lungs were really small. So she told us not to go on Google and not to try and find out what's wrong, but wait until we saw the fetal medicine doctor, which would probably be in about a week's time. So obviously we were devastated. We didn't know if our baby was going to survive until that next appointment. So we went home. We told our family we were having a girl, but we didn't know what was wrong. She was poorly. So then on the Friday, a few days later, we went for appointment to see the fetal medicine doctor, and she diagnosed our daughter with something called fetal hydrops. And she told us that there was no hope. She literally said the words, "There is no hope. Your baby's got about 5% chance of survival, if that, and there isn't anything that we can do." And straight away, like, obviously we were absolutely devastated to hear the words that there's no hope. But straight away we just said, well, we're not going to terminate this pregnancy because we want to give her a chance, and if she's fighting, then we're fighting for her. So they just said, okay, that's fine. We'll give you some blood tests. We'll try and find out what the cause was. And they did a couple of weeks later. I didn't want to have the amniocentesis to find out if there's any genetic causes for the hydrops. I didn't want to have it at that early on at 20 weeks. I wanted to wait until she was a viable pregnancy, so 24 weeks. So if anything did go wrong and I went into preterm labour, then I knew that they would try and save her, whereas if she came before that, I knew that they wouldn't. So we waited until the 24 weeks until we did that. But then all of the tests came back that they were negative for anything. They couldn't figure it out. They didn't know what caused it. So they still said, well, we don't know when she's gonna, we just don't know. So yeah, we were told there was no hope, but we chose to carry on and to try and hope.
And there was that quote, wasn't there, from Sam says it in Lord of the Rings, doesn't he? While there's life, there's hope.
Yeah,
and we clung on to that, didn't we?
Yeah, so we'd been watching Lord of the Rings, and yeah, so it was where there's life, there's hope, and that's what we chose to cling on to. And I put everything out on Facebook to our friends, and I just requested, prayer, like just stand with us and pray. Sometimes, some days it just felt really dark, and like that we had nothing, but the fact that we had people supporting us really helped, because they held us up, and I think that was really important, that other people were hoping for us when we felt like we couldn't anymore.
Yeah, that's it. So a lot of the time, yeah, it was very dark, wasn't it? And we did feel kind of the depths of hopelessness, like where we should have been rejoicing about the pregnancy at that scan and getting our little picture and everything. Actually, it was just such a sucker punch that knocked the wind out of ourselves, didn't it? And oftentimes it was the kindness of our friends, our church community, our family, just walking us through those dark days, wasn't it? So yeah, we got to the point of being utterly hopeless, but just like plodding on. Like, we refused to give up on Sarah. We refused to kind of even contemplate the idea of terminating the pregnancy, but it was oftentimes just getting through the days. It was either Emma's joy, her ridiculous joy, or our friends kind of leading us by the hand through those days. So the thing with it was, obviously pregnancies are those things that we kind of have no control over, and it actually started to get worse before it got better.
Yeah, so we were having weekly appointments. We'd go in and see the fetal medicine doctor once a week to have scans. So at first she had something called bilateral pleural effusion, so she had fluid around both of her lungs, so crushing both of her lungs, and she also had something called ascites, so she had fluid all in her abdomen. But then it started to go under her skin as well, and it had gone all up her back and her spine, and it was around her heart as well. But then not only that, I started to develop fluid as well, so it's something called mirror syndrome, which also puts you at more of a risk of having a stillbirth, and also it's quite painful, so it's giving me contractions. So it was pretty scary, like not knowing what was going on, and having to, you know, count her kicks all the time to make sure that she was okay, and like, so trying to hope, but also living in a little bit of fear that, you know, what if she's not okay? I haven't felt a kick for a while. So it was quite dark at times, but, you know, having other people, like, you know, encouraging us really did help as well, didn't it?
Yeah, because some days it was literally holding our breath until the next kick, wasn't it?
Yeah. And we did meet with the baby doctors who work in the ICU, and we met with him, and then they organised getting steroids for her lungs. But the first time that we met with him, he showed us to the ICU, and he was talking about how if she's born, when she's born, the things that they're going to have to do to her when she's born. So like having like needles put straight into her to try and drain the fluid so that she can breathe. They might have to resuscitate her, you know, take her away straight away. So it was all very scary, and not knowing when it would happen, or how it would happen, and them saying that they weren't going to interfere in the pregnancy, they were just going to let her go full term. And then things did actually start to improve. So by 32 weeks, fluid started to just disappear, like, and they couldn't work. They didn't know why.
And Emma, like, so our eldest daughter, she was how old at the time?
She was 2 at the time.
And she used to just kind of come out with these most amazing statements, like just randomly out of nowhere. She'd say, "Look, Mummy, I see the water disappearing."
Yeah, she said the water's disappearing, the water's going away. And she was only 2, so she didn't know what was going on. And it was just, we were just driving along and the water's going away. And really? That's so weird. And another thing, I had a dream. It was just really strange. I had this dream that she came, and I dreamt that she was 7 pounds 2 ounces, and I dreamt that she came naturally, and I dreamt that she looked like her sister. And I can't even make it up. She was born on her due date, and she was 7 pounds 2 ounces, and she looked just like her sister. It was crazy, but so
yeah. So like from week 32, the fluid started disappearing in various areas of the body. So the thing with the fluid is that it actually literally crushes the development of this tiny kind of body in the womb. But then it started disappearing from various areas of the body, and the specialist kept telling us, you know, like it could be cycling, it could be moving from one area, so maybe from the abdomen to by the spine, or into the head, or into the cavity. You know, the heart is in like a little bag, and they were worried that it was going to go in there. And then what week was it that it just kind of disappeared?
37 weeks, all the fluid had gone, except some was up her spine. But not only the fluid in her had gone, also the extra amniotic fluid that I was carrying was also gone, which they could not explain, because that doesn't normally resolve until like the baby is born.
And so to put it in context, so talking to the specialists at University Hospital Coventry in Warwickshire, so that's a fairly big regional hospital, and they'd only seen, I think, 3 cases in the last 5 years, and they said by far, like, Sarah's was kind of the most threatening, because she had developed fluid in so many different areas of her body at such a young kind of age in the development cycle, and then it just started disappearing, and nobody had a reason for that at all, because that just doesn't happen.
No, so we met with the baby doctor again, which is the specialist in the ICU, and he was actually really amazed, and he was like, well, things have changed now. She's very unlikely that she's going to have to go to the ICU, or is it the baby unit? Yeah, neonatal. Very unlikely that she'll have to go there. But we still don't know if she will, you know, come out breathing or not. So we do have to have the baby doctors all present. So. But
yeah, so just kind of the waters disappearing was kind of miraculous, wasn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, I asked to be induced on her due date because I didn't want to go any further. I thought, you know, we've kept her in there long enough, let's just get her out, and if she needs help, she can get the help that she needs. So they took me in on my due date and they induced me, and it didn't take very long. It was a 19-minute labour, and she came so fast that she came in the induction room. So the baby doctors weren't actually present. They were all supposed to be there. So obviously I was in shock because it had all happened so quickly, and she came out and she was crying, and she cried literally for an hour. And they just put her straight on me, which was amazing because I didn't think that would happen. I thought they were going to rush her off and she'd be away from me and I wouldn't know what was going on. But yeah, they put her straight on my chest, like on my chest. Maybe we'll share that picture. But she was born and she was on my chest and she was crying, and I just couldn't believe that she was here and she was okay and that she was breathing without any help. Take her off just to be checked over. And she came back to me about half an hour later, and they said that she was absolutely fine. They couldn't figure out what was wrong. You know, there's nothing that they can see. I mean, they did say something further along the line might come about, but we just don't know. But she seems fine, so you can have her. And 12 hours later, we were home. You know, we went from being told that our baby was going to die to being home with a healthy child. And the only thing that she has wrong with her is she's got a split. She's got diastasis recti, so her tummy's bigger than normal. But other than that, it doesn't cause her any problems. So yeah, it's just amazing. But that's her story. That's her tag, isn't it? That's Sarah's special tummy. We call it Sarah's special tummy. But yeah, so now after that we wrote some cards to send to people after she was born, and I wrote about hope in these cards. You know, like always hold on to hope. You know, I know there are situations where, you know, babies don't survive, but the fact that, you know, she did, it shows you that, you know, you hold on to hope and it can, you know, things can miraculously happen. So I sent this card to the fetal medicine department, and I found out a few years later actually that it was there on the notice board because a mother got in touch with me because she'd seen some tags on Instagram about fetal high drops and how I'd shared Sarah's story. And she told me that she was in Coventry as well, and that she'd been to see this consultant, and that the consultant took her to the notice board, pointed at the picture of Sarah and said, "There is always hope."
And this is the consultant that told us literally that there was no hope for our Sarah, and now she's pointing at Sarah's picture and telling Sarah's story as a story of hope for other mothers.
So yeah, that is amazing really, because I can't even tell you how hurtful it is to be told that there is no hope. Having no hope is just such a dark place to be in. So now that this consultant does tell mothers there is, you know, hold on to hope, it's just amazing, and I'm just so grateful that that Sarah survived and that she can bring hope to hopeless situations.
And so now you're part of a community online, aren't you? Like supporting other mothers and other fathers as well, I guess, with children who are developing with fetal high drops. And to be fair and to be sure, like not many of the kids make it, but during the pregnancies you're able to at least talk to them, and it's not kind of a vacuous, empty hope. It's actually just keep going because you never know, and sometimes just those words of comfort from you can help them through that situation, even if it's to help them through to actually grieve properly, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean there is a lot of grief in this situation, but I haven't been through the grief situation, but having spoken to people who have, they still tell me that this story of hope has brought them so much comfort